the blind, they cannot see. There ain't no talking about it, but being alone without you when you go.
My guests today hail from Wexford and enjoyed a whirlwind of success with their brand of Celtic rock in the latter half of the 80s, becoming one of Ireland's most critically and commercially successful bands. They received critical acclaim in the UK with their album Crimes of Conscience in 1987 and even appeared on the hugely popular primetime talk show Wogan, performing their hit Witness for the World. They had 7 Irish top 30 hits and spent 19 weeks in the Irish charts. They won the IRMA Award for Best Newcomer in 1987 and Best Irish Group in 1989. Their 2 iconic albums, Crimes of Conscience and Witness for the World, went double platinum. They appeared on the front cover of the Hot Press magazine. They toured with Big Country in 1989 in the Peace in Our Time UK tour. But sadly, they disbanded in the early 90s. And lead singer Brendan Wade went on to form the Swans. But in 2010 they reformed and enjoyed a successful Irish and British tour, and their greatest hits, the best of Cry Before Dawn, reached number 12 in the Irish album charts. They've since played Vicar Street, Wexford Opera House, the London Fete and Electric Picnic. They received a fantastic welcome at our first Forever Young Festival in 2019, and we're beyond delighted to be welcoming them back at this year's Forever Young Festival on the Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Brendan and Vinnie from Wexford's finest, Cry Before Dawn. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
What an introduction. Sharon, with that introduction, I think you need to be auditioning for the Late Late Show. I think there's a place for you. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think that one's done. Everyone's turning that one down. They haven't come knocking yet, but... So, yeah, lovely to see you. How are you guys doing?
Really good. Thanks. Really good. Looking forward to the show, you know.
Can't wait. We can't wait. So we've got a load of questions, quite a few sent in from our audience, of course, your loyal supporters. So if it's okay, I'll throw some questions at you and we'll have a chat. Well, Paula, who introduces herself as a massive fan, asks, where did the name come from? But also on a similar vein, we've got a question from Susie in the UK who said, I didn't know your music before Forever Young Festival 2019, but I'm now a huge fan. Members of the band were in Black Arthur and the Undertakers, then Cry Before Dawn, which got me thinking, who comes up with these crazy names?
We didn't really have much to do in Wexford in those days, you know, so these crazy names just came out of the woodwork. Black Arthur and the Undertakers was actually a band with our guitar player, Tony Hall, and the drummer, Pat Hayes. And they won various kind of competitions in Wexford, and they were really well loved and in that kind of punk style, you know. And I really don't know where that name came from, but the name Cry Before Dawn actually came from Pat as well. So we have to blame him for all of these. And, yeah, I'm not quite sure where it originated from, but Pat came up. We were desperately seeking a name at one stage, and Pat came up with this name. And initially, we didn't really know what to make of it, you know. But then it kind of just stuck, and it became kind of very natural to say. And, well, it's still here today, so it must be a good name.
It's worked.
So we're blaming Pat. We're blaming Pat on that one.
Pat's the crazy name guy. Okay. You broke through at a time when every record company was looking for the next U2. Did this put pressure on you to try and sound a certain way?
I don't think so. I think at the time people were maybe trying to sound a little bit different from U2 because a lot of Irish bands got compared to them.
Yeah.
So look, it's a while ago now, but we just did what we did. I suppose, yeah, we're a guitar-based band, but Brendan brought the traditional instruments to the band, which was different at the time. And I don't think we felt pressure. What do you think, Brendan?
I just think we did what we did, really. I mean, obviously, there was certain sounds at the time. You know, there was these new pedals were coming in, flangers and delay pedals and boss pedals and all that. So really everybody kind of sounded the same. And, U2 really were the ones that broke through, obviously, because they're just fantastic. And then that sound kind of went out there. And if you kept on playing that type of sound, you were kind of associated with U2. But I think basically what made us a bit different was the traditional instruments, not really something I wanted to do, but the lads said, we'd be crazy not to utilize this. And so we did it, and, we're still doing it today. And I think it kind of sets us apart a little bit.
So how did the appearance on Wogan come about? Was Terry a fan? And what was it like to work with the amazing Terry Wogan?
Well, I obviously, we were with a really great record company at the time. And I suppose they tried to get on these shows, but you're never really that hopeful because they must have so many great acts that are trying to get on it. But so it kind of came out of the blue. And on the show that we were on, Cliff Richard was supposed to do it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It was a show about evangelists and stuff like that, because the great evangelist, Billy Graham, was on it.
Yeah.
So, but somehow Cliff Richard couldn't do it. And I don't think we're evangelists, but I'm not quite sure how we got it, but we got the phone call, and the next day we were in there, And I mean, Terry Wogan was just a delight, as everybody knows. He's an absolutely wonderful, warm-hearted guy. He was talking about Wexford and Limerick, where he came from. And we didn't talk very much, but the few words we had were very nice,
Similar, Vinny, similar experience with Terry?
Yeah, I mean, I memories were speaking to him in the hall, speaking to him in makeup, and he was a really, really nice fella. And as Brendan said, Cliff was to do the show. For some reason, he couldn't. So the fact that we were at that time living in London, you get the call, you're there the next day. Now, if we had been in Wexford,
it wouldn't have happened.
It would have been different. We wouldn't have been able to do it. So it was an opportunity we didn't pass up, and we were there within about 5 minutes.
Of course. Okay, so you've only released 4 albums. 2 of those have been this century. Does it surprise you how your legacy endures?
It does, yeah. Well, I was talking to a fellow downtown the other day, and he said, geez, you lads are doing well. I said, why do you say that? He said, well, there's thousands of bands form every year, and most of them get about 35 minutes, and people don't want to hear them anymore. You lads are 35 years on, and people are still looking to hear you. So we must have done, and they're doing something right, but it's great that we do endure and people do want to hear us. So, yeah, it's fantastic.
It's really amazing. Especially when we came back there, for the get together 11 years ago. My God, it's amazing how time flies. And I mean, the reaction there was incredible, And so, in that period when we were signed and all that, and eventually it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to work out, you kind of, a part of you think that maybe you kind of failed or something. But I think when you go and you see what we've done since, and the live gigs and the live shows and the comments on social media, I think we actually must have done something really good.
Really right.
And I think people, they still want to hear that, and we want to play those songs, and we want to play some new stuff as well.
Brilliant. And I'm a bit like Susie, who sent the question in from the UK. I didn't grow up in Ireland. I didn't know you guys at the time, but you blew me away at the first Forever Young, and I love the albums now. So and they still have a real feel that feels fresh. So I think that probably is why it's not music that dates. It just feels like music that means something, and I think that's why people keep that love.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Sharon, and. We like to think the songs are good. We like to think the melodies are good. But if you take Brendan's lyrics from the time, I think it was in our world, it was a little bit of a social history of Ireland at that period. Now, things, as we know, have moved on a lot since then. But a lot of Brendan's lyrics are very hard hitting, and they're putting out there what we saw at the time. Now, sometimes I'd talk to my children and I'd be telling them when I was growing up. Now, obviously, they're growing up now, and they can't believe what I'm telling them about Ireland and how Ireland has changed. So I think Brendan got it spot on those lyrics. And when people hear a Cry Before Dawn song, it brings them back to those times, good and bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't all bad. There was some good times as well. But that's probably what helps our stuff to endure as well.
What was it like touring with Big Country?
We had been touring for a long time, and we were signed then by CBS. And so we thought that we were a good live band until we went on the Big Country tour. And that really kicked us into shape, you know. Just on a practical level, we learned how to behave on these tours, you know, what not to do, what to do. And the whole thing about playing night after night after night after night. By the end of that tour, we were a real band, you know. We were tight. We knew what sound we wanted. And of course, I mean, beyond that, it was so exciting to play with guys like Stuart Adamson and all the lads on Big Country. Were kind of heroes of ours as well, you know. We were watching those on Top of the Pops, and now we were actually playing with them.
Also, Brendan, if you remember, Sharon, we did a fantastic tour with Squeeze.
Oh,
That's
brilliant.
right.
Yeah, I love Squeeze.
If Squeeze are known for anything, they're just known for brilliant songs.
Yeah.
And I think that was a real eye-opener as well, Brendan, wasn't it? And if you remember, Brendan, the different cities in the UK we played, I remember Newcastle, Bristol, Manchester, all over. We got a fantastic reaction on the Squeeze tour as well. And I think that really helped to kick us into shape and make a real band out of this as well, you know?
Yeah. You go on these tours and you don't know what to expect or what the benefit is, you know. But by the end of the tour, we were in great shape as a band, and we had made a load of new fans, and there's still an association with those fans, Big Country fans, and us to this day, you know.
And I didn't know about the Squeeze, so that's fascinating. So I mean, like, you know, Tilbrook differed like next to Lennon and McCartney for a lot of people for songwriting.
Fantastic, yeah.
So that experience must have been amazing. How did you end up contributing a track to the soundtrack of The Courier?
Okay,
Good
again.
question.
Sorry, they're not put in to stump you. It's just people ask them.
Can you remember, Brendan?
Not quite sure, Vinny, how that happened. I'm not sure how that happened.
Well, my recollection is this, that there was this Gabriel Byrne film being shot in Dublin, and I suppose back in those days, you know, Ireland wasn't the film capital that it is now. So it was maybe a pretty unique event. And different bands were contributing music. I think U2 had a song on it, Elvis Costello, a lot of Aslan, a lot of those bands. So I'd say it came through the record company. And I just remember a recollection of having a conversation with whoever the director of the film was, who happened to be a fan of our band. And we were asked to contribute a song. And it was a song that we hadn't put on an album, probably should have, but it's on the Courier album, a song called Silly Dreams. Pretty good song, Brendan, would you agree? And I think that's how it came about. We were invited to do it, and of course, you're going to say yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been mentioned by some fans. Obviously, Brendan, you know, you had a few health problems and you struggled a bit during COVID. In those times, you know, did you see that, you know, that music was the way forwards? And, you know, how do you feel now with the dark days of the pandemic behind us?
Yeah, well, what was kind of scary for me is I got this COVID disease right at the very beginning, you know, when all the television kind of scare stuff was, you know, you were watching Italy in particular and stuff. It looked incredibly bad. And I had been playing in a ski resort, actually. And there was people there from all over the world, you know. And so that was fine. It was great. I was playing there. And a few days later, I just felt not that great. And so I decided to go to the doctor. I never thought it would be COVID or anything like that, because that was far away, you thought. And it turned out that it was. And it was scary because there's no vaccines. You saw all this stuff on the television, bad news and whatever. So psychologically, it was quite a struggle. Physically, it was very, very, wasn't very good. I never had to go to hospital or anything like that. But eventually got through it and was very happy to get through it. And yeah, music, it's kind of an answer for everything, really. For me personally, it's my life. And so I was able to set up this little studio here with my son, and I was able to come in here, and I learned how to record things and whatever, and that's proven to be a fantastic benefit. So out of those dark days, something personally for me ended up very positive. But I'm really glad it's all over. My God, yeah. Pain for everybody, and those poor people who suffered.
Yeah.
Awful.
Is there anything that you wish you'd done differently in the 80s?
I'll go first there, Brendan. When the band finished, I think we could have went on and made a third album at the time. And personally, I'm sorry we didn't do that. There was different things happening, and we broke ranks with the record company. But I think the band should have went on and did a third album. Who knows what would have happened on that third album? But sometimes when you finish with a record company, it's hard to see the future, But I think we in one way we were in good stead to go forward and do another album. So to answer that question, I'm sorry we didn't, but we might make that right now.
Absolutely. Watch this space.
Would you be of the same opinion there, Brendan, or what do you think?
I mean, it was kind of a relief in the end as well to get out of it for a while, because it was like a pressure cooker for those 5 or 6 years. And but I mean, looking back now, of course we should have went on and did another album. But as you say, Vinny, we're hoping to fulfill that promise in the next few months.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, the benefit of hindsight, hey,
Yeah. It's easy. It's like everything. It's like life, Sharon. It's easy to look back,
absolutely,
and say, "Oh, what if we did this? What if we did?" You can only do what you think is the best at the time. You got to move on. And luckily for us, we're getting a new beginning at it. And you can't say that for a lot of things that happen in your life.
No. So, Brendan, you live and work in Switzerland. How does the music scene differ over there to the Irish music scene?
Well, it's like the Irish music scene, it's actually very small when you get to know everybody. You keep bumping into the same people. And it was the same in Ireland. I mean, when we went back recently to have a meeting in Dublin with some people, everybody knew everybody from that time, and the stories were fantastic. Yeah, it's a small country here. It's a small business over here. But I've enjoyed it immensely. It's been a great experience for me. So, I love Ireland so much, but I also love living here.
And how do you think you'd fare these days in the day of digital downloads? And as you mentioned, with your home studio there, self-recorded music, it's a different world. Do you think it would have been an opportunity for Cry Before Dawn to reach a larger audience? Or do you think it, being a live band that came up through the traditional route, do you think it would be harder to break through these days?
I think it's more difficult in a way, I mean, well, at my age, I mean, I'm not very social media friendly, I have to say. As a fella described to me, he thought TikTok was a clock, So that's how bad it can be. So I'm not social media savvy. So, but I think if we were younger, I think that's what every band has to do nowadays. And the opportunities to get out there without having necessarily to go to a record company. That side of it is probably better. But also the competition out there, it's unbelievable at the moment. I don't know how you break through, I suppose you break through if your songs are good enough, but
yeah, it's a huge amount of music out there, a huge market to try and tap in and find individual artists that are, trying to get known. I've no idea how it happens. They've got to be very, very lucky to be stumbled upon, I think, in these days.
It used to be, Sharon, I think that you had to be good, you had to be in the right place at the right time, and you had to be lucky. But now you got to really be lucky, I think, because as you say, there's just so much out there. It's hard to get noticed, isn't it?
Yeah. So, question sent in from both Chris and Gary. You hinted last time at some new material. Have we got a new album on the way we can look forward to?
I would say, well, put it this way. We're in the middle of recording tracks that we feel will end up as our new album.
Okay.
It would be our intention to, please God, have a single out in the summer.
Oh, fantastic.
With the album to follow on after that, either towards the end of the year or 2024. Like, we don't want to say too much, because for a number of years we said, oh yeah, we're going to do a new album, we're going to do a new album. But this time, like, we had a lot of demos done for a long time, and we were looking at them and listening to them. But this time we've actually gone into a studio with a production team, and tracks for an album are being worked on at the moment. So if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would say, yeah, we probably will. What's your take on it, Brendan?
I think you're right, Vinny. I'm not a betting man myself, but yeah, I mean, we have been working. I mean, obviously, working remotely on this, sending tracks over and back on the internet and all that sort of thing, which we find amazing. We know the old days when if you wanted to send the tape somewhere, or if you wanted to record in a different country, you had to take everything down and pack it up in lead boxes or something and transport it by sea and things or whatever. But nowadays and that's how we've done it. We've Tony lives in England. I live here. Vinny's in Wexford, and Pat. And we just sent the music to each other and tried to do it that way. And, it's turned out quite well. But when we record the album, that's going to be different. We're probably going to be in Ireland for that. We might do some of it remotely. We haven't decided yet.
Exciting times. Well, actually, I mean, Miriam asked, probably following on from that, maybe a little ambitious question. What are you up to now, Cry Before Dawn? And have we got a tour to look forward to? So, should the album come into existence in as planned, would we be looking forward to seeing you guys back on the road rather than just the one-off festival gig?
Yeah, well, just on that, so obviously our big focus at the moment in a few months' time is Forever Young Festival. We did it 2019. It's an amazing festival, Sharon, and really well done for putting it together. But we're looking forward to it on July 15th, and that's our big focus. As that is happening, we're doing this recording. We're getting our songs together, as I said, for a release maybe the end of the year, beginning of 24. When the album comes out, we then would look at doing a proper big tour, and medium tour, and. But we kind of said we don't want to do a whole lot till that happens. Then we've something to promote. Sure. And we can hopefully get back on the airwaves and create a good buzz. But in the meantime, people want to see us. It's just fantastic to be asked to play Forever Young with all these other artists. Brilliant. So that's keeping our hand in, and that's keeping us motivated. And that's going to lead us on to the album then release. So brilliant. All good.
Well, I have to say, when I started on the journey of putting Forever Young together, one of my outstanding memories of that is my first conversation I had with you, Vinny. Hello, I'm calling. I'm trying to set up a new festival in Ireland. Now, would there be any chance Cry Before Dawn might be interested in getting together to come and join us? Oh, are you looking to do something like Rewind in Ireland? Because that's what we need in Ireland. And I was just like, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Oh, brilliant. That's exactly what we want. And that gave me so much faith in the project I was trying to get off the ground, which was a huge thing, coming as a vet, not a music promoter, to get something like that off the ground. Having that enthusiasm from such a respected Irish band really helped in that process. So I'd like to thank you for that. And then just the final question, which I think rounds it off really nicely, a Brendan to a Brendan question. Brendan asks, when you guys first started out, your fans were teenagers, but now they're adults and they'll be standing in a field singing back to you every word of those songs that you wrote all this time down the road. How does that make you feel to hear that?
Well, I think that's every band's dream when they start off, you know. You never think it's going to happen to you, but when it does, it's unbelievable. You know, it's a little song that we wrote in Vinny's father's garage. You know, a garage band, and that's true. You know, down there, and then we go out, and this wonderful thing happens to us, and then people start singing your songs back. I remember when it happened. First of all. It was our first kind of solo tour of Ireland, and we Gone Forever had been released in a magazine. What was the name of that magazine, Vinny?
Fresh, was it?
So it was a kind of what you'd call a floppy disk. It was a single that was floppy, and so you could take it, play it on your record player, you know, and so I think. This was a very popular magazine at the time, and a lot of people obviously bought it or whatever. And when we went out on this tour, and we started playing Gone Forever, people just started singing it back to us, you know, and we were looking at each other. We couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very special, isn't it? For any band, that's the dream.
And you know what, Brendan? When it comes to July 15th, I don't know how many people will be at this show, but I think it's going to sell out. Sharon,
we're getting towards that. This is our third year, and we are the fastest growing festival in Ireland at the moment. So, you know, I think we're getting well towards the sellout situation, which is lovely because it is all for charity. So, you know, get more people that come and join us, the more money we raise for charity, and everybody has an amazing weekend because it's just the best fun. So,
and the beauty of that is what Brendan was saying. I remember that gig and gigs when people started singing Gone Forever back, like multiply that by thousands of times in this field in Palmerstown, County Kildare, 15th of July, and it'll be just an amazing feeling again. And you know, for all these years to have passed, but for all these people to still remember that and know the songs and want to sing them with us, it's just something magical to look forward to, Sharon, and we can't wait.
We can't wait either. Can't wait to have you back. The response we got from you last time was amazing. It's been lovely to talk to you guys today. Thank you for giving up your time and joining us on the interview. Can't wait to see you in July. Ladies and gentlemen, how wonderful is it to talk to the lovely Brendan and Vinny from Cry Before Dawn. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a girl in the ghetto. She's got no time to be changing.